Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnana-jnana-jnana Chakshurmilitam yena tasmai Shri-gurave namah Chit-chaitanya-manobishtam stapitam yena bhutani Skamrupkadamyam dadati sakalantikam Vandeham Shio Shiyudak Padakalam Shiyom Vaishnavam Shah Shri Upam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Saganalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shah Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Chatpate Gopesha Kapkakanta Radhakanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Kamala Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhani Sudha Devi Pranamama Priye Vankha Kalpta Visha Kripa Sundevsha Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Dada Shiva Sati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Charaswamati Namane Snekta Sid Supanita Bhaknam Sarvaratka Saptam Prabhat Katapanam Nami Bhakti Chopan Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vacharini Nirvashesha Srinivadi Paspachaya Dasatarini. So, this evening we will have the third part of our seminar on the trying to understand the working of the false ego. That okay, the false ego we quoted many verses of Bhagavad Gita the last 2 days, try to understand what Krishna says about his false ego and what the results are of acting according to his false ego. But many are new here, as did not hear the previous parts of this session, but I will explain it, or try to explain it in a very practical way, not on the basis of philosophy, although my explanation is based on the philosophy that I explained the last 2 sessions. We know from Bhagavad Gita we are a spirit soul, not this body. The body changes, and we are somewhere or not connected with this body. And we are transmigrating from one body to another, to different species of life. Krishna speaks in 8:21 in Bhagavad Gita about this Paramdham, the spiritual world. And Krishna wants us to bring to this spiritual world, because that is our home. And originally we are coming from there, the spirit soul. In the spirit soul has a form, a spiritual body, and belongs to the spiritual world. And that spiritual body is made of Sat Chit Ananda. That's the spiritual substance. From what it is made, it's eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. And in the spiritual world, Krishna is in the center of all activities. Everyone is a servant of Krishna, and is experiencing this Ananda, this great bliss. And this Ananda of devotional service is described by Rupa Goswami as being millions times greater than the happiness of Brahman realization, which is realizing that you are not a body. But how did we come here? Someday we must have been curious, what would it be? How would it feel to be Krishna one day? And Krishna said to us, are you sure? And we said, yes, we want to experience that. Krishna said, okay, but there is one problem. But don't worry, there's one problem. With the body that you have now, the spiritual body, you can only perform devotional service. You can only use that for spiritual activities of serving Krishna with love, serving me with love. So you cannot use this spiritual body for, if you want to experience one, if you want to experience my position as the enjoyer and the controller of everything. Krishna said, no problem. But the first thing that is required to think yourself God, to think yourself the controller, you must forget me. Otherwise, there is no fun. Therefore, everyone in this world has forgotten Krishna and put themselves in the center. But to come to this material world, because the material world is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, the Mahatattva, as a dark cloud in the spiritual world. A dark cloud is the material world. So it's a dark cloud in the kingdom of God. So that's good news. We are all in the kingdom of God. But the bad news is we are in the prison section. The prison section. And when you go to the prison, you get, what do you get? You have to give all your clothes and you get new clothes. You get new underwear and a t-shirt with lines on them. You get a number, get an overcoat. So Krishna covered our spiritual body with a subtle body made of mind, intelligence, false, evil. And this subtle body is again covered with a gross body made of bhumi-apana, fire, earth, air, fire, water, ether. Yes. Srila Prabhupada explains, it said once you see this arm, it's 3 arms, it's the arm and hand. It says you have 3 in 1. Because this gross arm has been produced upon a subtle arm, the subtle body. And the subtle body are the clothes of the spiritual body. So Srila Prabhupada says your spiritual hand is there, but it's covered now with a subtle hand and a gross hand. It's covered. His body is a covering. That one. And we explained false evil. So we create a covering according to our material consciousness. That You can have different material consciousness. We explained the last day the Brahma, Puja, Pratishta, 5 kinds of consciousness. If your consciousness is in Anamoya, you want only to eat, then you don't need higher intelligence. If that's your goal of life, you become an animal in our next life. So you have different levels of consciousness. Yeah, we have the consciousness where you identify with the gross body, as pranamoya, anamoya. Pranamoya means there are other living entities. I have competition. Animals are also like always afraid. But then you have the level where the living entity identifies with the subtle body and also the gross body at the same time. Mostly the human form of life. In the human form of life, we think, yes, that thinking, feeling, willing, emotions, signs, we want to achieve so many things, experience feelings that is prominent in the human form of life. That's more identification, false identification with the mind and with the gross body. But it's false. And then the next level is, when we are going, the purpose is that we purify our heart from discoveries and come to the pure state of the spirit soul, and where we identify with the spirit soul. Therefore, Rupa Goswami describes, first Narada Muni. Narada Muni describes pure consciousness of the soul. Sarvopadi Ganimuktam Tatparat Pananirmanam Rishikena Rishikesha Sheknam Bhaktir Chate. Pure devotional service is serving the Supreme Lord, Krishna, out of love, that because serving, pleasing the spiritual senses of the Supreme Lord, that Rishikena Rishikesha, without any covering of false evil, it says, without these coverings. Spiritual life begins when we identify with the soul and not with the body. But that's a problem, that false evil makes us identifying with the body. So, what is the problem? That the problem is we come from the spiritual world, but we have gone to millions of births. We cannot trace it back. It's not possible. That but the original cause is we have forgotten Krishna, and because we forget Krishna, we forget our position as a spirit soul, as a pure spiritual soul. And because we forget that, the next step is moha. I identify with the subtle and the gross body. And that's false ego. And what's the result of false ego? Mahamoha. Then you think, oh, everything, I'm the center of attention. Everything is for my enjoyment. That everything is for my enjoyment, and this is mine. I want this to become mine. That an attachment is created. What's the result of creating attachment to the body or attachment to objects in this world? If you have a brand new car and you have just paid, signed for the loan, and someone makes a little scratching. You feel the pain because you identify it's my car. So that's suffering comes. You think this is mine, but nothing is ours in this world. It's all from Krishna. But we have this mentality of thieves and say, this is mine. That's called separatist mentality. And that separatist mentality comes from the moment we say, this is mine. From the moment we say, I'm this body. It's easy to understand. If you say, I'm a man, you are separating yourself from all the women. That's separation, separatism. If you say, I'm a doctor, then you become separate from all those who are not doctors. So that is false ego. And it's because of suffering. And when you suffer, that suffering is called tamishra. In Sanskrit, tamishra is also used for hell, the hell of suffering. But actually, there is no problem. We are eternal souls. We are not this body. That the soul, the body changes, Krishna said. There is no problem, but the problems are made into the mind. That's why we identify that. So the problem is really in the mind. The mind forces this idea upon us, and we become under control of the mind. And then finally, under tamishra, you think I'm going to die. But we don't die. We do not even need the body to exist in our original spiritual state. Not necessary. It has shown upon us because we wanted. It's based on our desire, because that's what the soul does, desire. So I was reading also from the Uddhava Gita last days, where Krishna speaks about its false ego in the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We know Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita, but he speaks also in the Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto. And the Uddhava Gita is many chapters. So Krishna says, as soon as one identifies with the world, one forgets his eternal identity as our eternal identity. Krishna says, Mamagam Sushi Veluke Jiva Buddhasnatha. We are part and parcel of Krishna. And therefore we are the servant of Krishna. But we forget that. And because we identify with this world, and we are surrendering, we are sold out to this false ego, Krishna says. We are really thinking we are the body. That is the greatest madness. Madness caused by our mind. Of course, Narada Muni has a spiritual body. When Narada Muni met Ravan, Narada Muni said to Ravan, Ravan, give Sita back to Ram. It will be the cause of your destruction. And Ravan became very angry. And he took his sword. And he was going to kill Narada. And he tried to kill him. And with his sword, he was cutting through his body, but zip and zip. But Narada Muni was still dancing in the air, chanting the holy names of Krishna with his feet. Nothing happened. And Ravan said, "What kind of body do you have?" He became a little diplomatic. Oh, Narada Muni said, "That's a spiritual body." And Ravan said, "Can I also get such a body?" He said, "Yes, you just perform devotional service for Vishnu." And Ravan said, "Impossible. I cannot do that." But yes, that so Lord Krishna says the eternal soul exists beyond duality. It does not need a body to exist. But by false identification with the material body, it becomes involved in the happiness and distress of the body. So happiness and distress in this world is for the body, not for the soul. But where is that happiness and distress experienced? In the mind. And we identify with the cinema of the mind. We think I'm the feelings. The mind is depressed. We think I'm depressed. The mind feels happy. I feel happy. So we become captivated, Krishna says, by the concoctions of the material mind and intelligence, which convince him that he can become the enjoyer of the material world. I'm going to become happy in this world if I do this, that, and we make plans. And the mind misuses the intelligence for these plans. And we are just zombies. We are going with the mind, in the mind. Yes. So the soul is induced to engage his body in material activities by the contaminated mind. And these activities entangle him in the cycle of birth and death. So our own mind is the cause of our problems. Therefore, Krishna speaks by Bhagavad Gita and says, yes, perform yoga means controlling the mind, fixing the mind on the absolute truth, fixing the mind on Krishna, Manmana. Because this fixing the mind on Krishna is the most important instructions in all the Vedas. So, I was thinking to show you, because I noted a quote here from the Vedas, which says that. Okay, here it is. Smartavya satatam vishnum vishmartavya nayatuchit sarva vide nisedya syur etayor eva kinkara. So one smartavya, one must remember satatam, always Krishna, Krishna, always remember Krishna. And vishmartavya nayatuchit. And one should never forget him. Sarvide nisedasyur, this is the most important rule and is the most important of all rules and regulations. All rules and regulations are the kinkara, are the servant of that principle. So that's most important. So the soul witnesses what goes on in the mind, Krishna says, and identifies with his performance on the stage. So we are absorbing in the mind, we think, that's me, where we are going with the flow. And that is what happens. A devotee, if he follows regulated principles and as a good sadhana, he gets spiritual power, not to go with the flow. That's explained in 270 Bhagavad Gita. There it's explained that like rivers enter into the ocean is not disturbed by the rivers entering. And similarly, a devotee, if desires come up in his mind, he does not identify with the desire. He observes. He looks at the desire and says, oh, is that desire going to please Krishna? No, not interested. And it disappears. But you must get the power first to observe and not thinking you are limited. And most people don't have that power. That power comes from the spiritual platform to control the mind. By engaging the mind in Krishna's service through sadhana, you get that power. Otherwise, you don't get that. That's very important. That this was in 94 or something, Satchidananda Swami from Germany, he gave a seminar. And he said, before you go to bed, you put above your bed a sticker, a sign, today I will see myself as the observer. And the next day you look at that paper, and if you can do that, you are perfectly Krishna conscious. Because if you can do that, being the observer of the mind, and not identifying with the mind, but the observer, you are Krishna conscious. Because Krishna says, if everything is done by material nature in this world, Krishna says. And one who identifies himself as the doer of material, he's a vimuda, a super-ends. So it's a question of observing what's going on in the mind. Super soul brings out in the mind according to his material energy, Maya. And Maya, mind is Maya. Maya, what is her function? We are in the prison section of the Kingdom of God. He wants us to keep in the prison section. He is Durga. You don't go out, you stay here. Have all these proposals in the mind are meant to stay, to keep us here. We must not follow the mind. We must follow Krishna's instructions and the instructions of the spiritual master. And then you can control. If you see something popping up in the mind, first question is Krishna pleased with that? Is it pleased? It's in Bhagavad Gita. Is he pleased with that? Is that in Bhagavad Gita? And is that in instruction? Should I do that? Would Prabhupada be pleased if I do that? Would my spiritual master be pleased? Where is that in the scriptures? You have to be a little critical, but based on the right authority. And that right authority is transcendental knowledge. We must act with transcendental knowledge. And not acting like it feels good, let me do it. No, that's don't act according to your likes and dislikes. That is duality. Raga Dvesha. attachment aversion. Krishna says, no, get out of this duality, come to the non-dual. And the non-dual substance, Vedanta Tattvavistam Pidas Tattvam Atvayam Brahmiti Paramatmiti Paramatmiti Sapyate. The absolute truth, the great Vedantists have concluded, have three divisions: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So we follow the instructions of Paramatma, and Paramatma is an expansion of Krishna. Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada says, is following the dictations of the super soul within. But of course, these are the same instructions as in Bhagavad Gita and the scriptures. So now Krishna says the false ego has three aspects. And Lord Kapila Dev speaks about that in the third canto of the Bhagavatam. And let's see, I have the database here. I will read verse 3, 26, 26. So this Lord Kapila Dev, who speaks to Devahuti about the false ego. Kartritvam karanatvam cha karyatvam cheti lakshanam santakora vimhudatvam ittivasyat ahankrite false ego. That's okay. Yes. Translation. This false ego is characterized as the doer, as an instrument, and as an effect. The doer, instrument, as an effect. The doer is kartritvam. We think ourselves the doer. It's a general identification on the body. Mm-hmm. And the body is doing everything. But I'm moving my hands. Look, I'm doing it. But it's not so simple. The soul desires only. The super soul moves the hand. But we think we are moving. This is deep knowledge. If you really become the observer, you will see Krishna every moment if you understand that. Because the soul only desires. I speak, Krishna is speaking as a super soul, but I desire. I'm also doing. It's a cooperation. But, we are not independent in our doing. That because the body and the subtle body is controlled by Prakriti, which is under control of Krishna. So kartritvam, and the second is, we come back to that. The second is karanatvam. That's so the body is an instrument that we use, and we identify with the instrument. It's how we view ourselves. That's how do we see ourselves. And the third is the effect. By our actions, we undergo experience in the mind. And we think we are this is the effect of our activities. And this experience in the minds of happiness, distress, we think that's me. So that's the karyatvam. So this is these three aspects. So Krishna says to Uddhav in the 11th canto, the soul's material life, its experience of sense gratification is actually false. That it's just like trees' appearance of quivering when trees are reflected in agitated water. or like the world of fantasy or dream. So you have a tree and it's reflected in the water, but the water is moving. There are waves and it appears like the the trees are moving. That, so we think that experience of sense gratification is real. That, but what is sense gratification? You want to eat, you have pain in the stomach, it's called hunger. Then you eat and it's gone. It's all an experience of the body, and that experience is reflected in the mind. That's all. The happiness and distress is reflected in the mind. That and we think that's my happiness and distress. And when there's distress, we become depressed, and the mind becomes depressed, and we think that's me. And so that's a serious disease. Identifying with the mind. That this absorption in the mind. But then let's go again over this tree. Cartridge form. That we think ourselves the doer. We transfer the quality of action to something that is not acting. That's interesting. To something that is not acting. What does that mean? We see ourselves as the doer. I'm doing things. But we have only one part of the doing, the desiring. The rest is done by the super soul. In Krishna says here, then you have the Buddha. That we think we are going to achieve something in this world. That if I do this and that, I'm going to become happy. So that's also false ego. Because what is going to become happy? The soul? No, the body and the mind, so-called. We try to make the body and the mind happy, but we are not the body and the mind. And we think ourselves victims. I'm a victim. This person did that to me, and nothing works out. I'm a victim. Or I'm a hero. That's worse. Anyway, so we attract the attention of others in two ways. I'm the hero. I have achieved this, that, and that. Most people in material consciousness, if one meets a friend, equal friend, then one starts to boost, I've done that and this, and I had a very good time on vacation, and this and that and that. So I'm better than you, I'm enjoying. Don't understand you that that's false ego. They boast, I'm better than you. Or if it doesn't work out, then they are a victim. So that's easy to do, to become a victim. You just point out the problem. The problem comes from others, not from me. See how I'm being treated badly by these persons. All bad things happen to me. Now, what I do always bad, I'm a victim. Or all the bad things I overcome, that's the fault of others. Or I can change what happens. Can I do? My mind empowers overempowers my intelligence. Nothing I can do. But no, you can do something. If you perform devotional service, you will be able to control your mind. So from that, I give you a summary. That's normally another session, but I just give you a summary of what you can do about that. That but first, I said, do not blame others. It's our own fault. Dat de ene kan pansen så mycket som har på en chat med baten. Kan vi bara kan feedback på probeer för det andra steeds beter. Moet die wat is daar. En Lord Brahma says, yes. A devotee thinks whatever happens, it's due to my own past activities. It's my fault. And Krishna is so kind. He gives me only a little of reaction. That's the good mentality. But not to blame others. That, and then look at the mind as an observer, that we already say. And check with transcendental intelligence, should I do this and that. And most important is we should, to get rid of this mentality, or to learn to get rid of this mentality, we should associate with those who are not criticizing others, who never criticize others. That is mentioned, I think, in Nectar of Instruction 5. Let's go to the Nectar of Instruction. Nectar of Instruction. That's the database. That's very important, because this Nectar of Instruction, and the first 4 verses, you must strictly follow. Then you can control the mind. But in verse 5, that's Rupa Goswami said, Krishneti yasagiritam manasādayeta dikshasti cetkanati vissa bachantamisam sutsutsaya bachanta vihyamanantananya nindati sunyaridamipsita sangalabhya. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Krishna. One should offer humble obeisance to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation and is engaged in worshipping the deity. And one should associate and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. He never criticizes others. Such a person you must associate with. That try to find such a person. That's a spiritual master. You find someone like that, that's the pure devotees. That and yeah, many times we think ourselves the victim, and I'm the victim of that person. That's and the mind starts to concentrate on it. And whatever this person said, is saying or doing, the mind is taking out the bad things, and it paints a picture in your mind that such a person is bad, so bad, and it becomes a meditation. You become a yogi, meditating on this false day after day after day, and it doesn't stop, and it goes on. So if you have such a case, then distance yourself from that person for the moment until you can see objective what's going on. Wait, till you see the reality. Anyway, these are a few things about this second point. That's first, yeah. Of course, the first point. Then care not from how we see ourselves. We have qualities in the mind. We may feel sad. Then we see ourselves as a sad person, or a serious person. Yeah, the qualities that are in the mind, we start to identify with it. That and so we identify with the feelings that comes up into the mind, and we think that's ourselves. Should understand that's disempowering you. Don't do that. That just give that up. That don't meditate on yourself. Just meditate on Krishna. Then everything will become clear. That the more you put yourself in the center, the more you get in trouble. And then carry out from the third. So we are identifying with the body. We think we are the body, just like in a dream. You may accept another body in the dream. You identify with that. Yes, that we should be very careful. But it has become such a second habit to think we are this body. We have done this so many lifetimes. It's just, and we speak like that. I feel not good, and this and that of cold. That we speak like that because it's our second habit. But we have to purify ourselves from that. Why are we doing that? Because the body is made of material nature. It's contaminated with lust, anger, greed, avarice. Yeah, you want to. There's so many things. Lamentation, illusion, fear. That are the consequences. And we have to purify our heart from that. The more you think of Krishna, engage in devotional service, try to be selfless service out of love, that will go away, but it takes a while. But for that, we have to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, but at the same time, here, what I'm telling you this evening, it's just a few points I made. But if you understand this and analyze this with your intelligence, Krishna gives you intelligence, how to bring that in practice. We must also do that here at the Bhagavatam. This chanting is not going to work efficient if we are not hearing sufficient from the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Why is that? Haridas Thakur is the Acharya on the chant of the holy name. And he explains that in Harinam Chintamani, you can read that, to be chanting the holy name with the proper attitude, you must be situated in Sambandha Jnana, in your relationship with Krishna. And therefore, to be situated in your relationship with Krishna, you need three things. You need to know who Krishna is. Then you realize I'm not Krishna. The first thing. The second thing is understanding who we are, servant of Krishna. And then the third thing to understand is our relationship. Our relationship is devotional service. This is the cause of this ananda, this bliss, which is not from this world. So, but we have to hear that again and again, because we have the second habit. And we can't get rid of this false identification. But then in the Bhagavatam, you have many stories of devotees who had the same problem and who solved the problem and who had obstacles on the way and how they overcame, how they have overcome these obstacles. Therefore, we must read these books, Srimad Bhagavatam. So then, yeah. What can we do to cut this knot of bondage in the material world? Now, that's the solution. Krishna speaks about the solution to, and that is a very deep point he is making here. And we will deepen that out tomorrow in the Sunday lecture. Yeah, but I read you the point here. So Krishna says to, he says to Uddhava, even though neglected, insulted, ridiculed, and envied by bad men, and even though repeatedly agitated by being beaten, tied up, or deprived of one's occupation, spat upon, or polluted with urine by ignorant people, one who desires the highest goal of life should, in spite of all these difficulties, use his intelligence to keep himself safe on the spiritual platform. Internally, we must be with Krishna. Externally, we can still do so many things, but we need to be connected with Krishna to keep us safe. That, I remember this is 98. I was in Mayapur with my spiritual master, Bhakti Charumanj, and he did a Mayapur Navadvip Parikram, a Parikram that, and at the beginning of the Parikram, he said, now you have arrived in the spiritual world, you engage your mind only in chanting the holy name and hearing the pastime of Lord Chaitanya. And don't come down again. Remain on the platform. That was his instruction. That is what we must learn. Always remain on the spiritual platform, internally serving Krishna. Always be connected with Krishna. Always feel Krishna's presence. Therefore, I said in the beginning of the chanting this evening, try to feel Krishna in your heart when you chant. That we should always feel Krishna's presence in the heart. That, because, and in the heart of others, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about that in the 6th chapter. The 6th chapter speaks about the yogi, verse 28. Yomam pashanti sarvatra sarvam samahi pashyati tasyam na panashami sasame na panashati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. And the previous verse, the true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the Supreme Lord, everywhere. But it begins with feeling in your heart and then seeing him in the heart of others. And every pose of devotion service is meant for that. In like deity worship, they worship the deity. Lord Kapila Dev says at the end of he says, at the end of the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam, that he gives the purpose of deity worship. So the Pujari worships the deity, and while he's worshipping the deity, he transfers the same deity into his heart and feels the deity in his heart. That's what the Pujari must do. That's his duty. It's not only the external. If you do the external only, you wipe some incense. No, you must feel Krishna in the heart. At the same time, your consciousness must. And that will purify you. That the same with chanting. Chanting. It's because if we chant and the lips move, Hare Krishna, Krishna, and the mind is somewhere else, you are not chanting, because you are the soul. You are the consciousness. If the consciousness is not there, you are not chanting your arms. The lips are moving and the mind is doing something else. It's devotional service. Devotion and service. Devotion is eternal. Must be there. Not only the service, the external. That so that and that is a point very important for every devotional activity. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Marjanam, Varnam, Dasyam, Sakyamam, Nivedanam. 9 angles of devotional service. Hearing about Krishna, remembering Krishna, speaking about Krishna, this offering the serving the lotus feet of Krishna. Whatever you do, you can think of the lotus feet of Krishna. And Archanam is deity worship. Vanamans, prayers to Krishna, are beautiful prayers. Prayers. We can learn the standard prayers of devotees. That beautiful. The Bible is full of beautiful prayers. Prayers of Akrura, the prayers of Queen Kunti. So many that prayers that Archanam, Vanam, Dasyam. Always see yourself as a servant of Krishna, whatever you do. We see ourselves rather, especially in the beginning, as a servant of the spiritual master. He's a representative of Krishna, whatever we do. That if you don't have a spiritual master, we accept for the moment Prabhupada. Yes, an Atmani Vedana, surrender to Krishna. You follow everything what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, which is man mano, think of Krishna, then bhavamat bhakto, you become his devotee, matchayi, you worship Krishna, mam namaskar, you offer him respect. And then Krishna says, surrender to me. You follow all his instructions. And then Krishna says, then one who studies in this sacred dialogue between me and Arjuna, he worships me with his intelligence, so that we should do daily study Bhagavad Gita. And one should give this to those to others who are not austere, who are austere, my devotees, but not to those who are not austere, who are envious of me, who are against me. These are Krishna's instructions in a nutshell. That's the only thing you must really remember and how to do that. And then Krishna says, Masucha, no worries. You will be able to control your mind. Krishna will help you to do the right thing and not come under the control of your mind. A false ego is what you brings under control of the mind. We should use the mind in Krishna's service, not be controlled. Anyway, any questions? Yes?
Maharaj, thank you so much for the nice class. It was great from yesterday as well. Whenever you come, you really elevate the consciousness, especially for me, to the next level. You feel that, okay, you are empowered with the spiritual energy, and devotional service becomes really good. But after a few weeks, as Bhakti Swami Maharaj said, don't fall back. So whenever you come, it's a feeling of when we are in the Dham and doing the parikrama and you get that energy. But after a few weeks, it really, I personally fall down. How do I keep myself at the same level where you have helped us to reach?
First, I'm an answer. But don't think that I'm elevated, but what I know from the scriptures and from my experience is um, you must take Krishna consciousness as a priority. I never put it secondary. We have to do our job and so on, but first our sadhana. And it's a little austere. You have to get up early in the morning. That before 4 o'clock. That so you have to have the determination to go to bed early. That's important. Therefore, the Buddhists know I don't do late evening programs. I want to back at least latest by 9 because I'm getting up at 3 o'clock and I'm not deviating from that. It's nothing going to that, but you have to be practical. That if you get above 5, okay, but get up at 5 and chant and hear sufficiently. That's your spiritual food. And in the evening also. And during the day you do your job, but try also to get Krishna inside. That I've here, you see, I think it's here. See it? It's
No, the whole universe, material universe, is a prison house. There is no freedom.
That's what I said. That's Prabhupada. All his lectures are there. Everything what he said. 32 gigabytes of lectures. Whatever you do, you drive with the car, you listen. You may not be able to attentively listen, but you will pick up things. So, and be aware where you go, wherever you go. Be careful with what kind of people you have to deal with. And don't speak with them. Don't take their association. You give their association. You give. Don't let them give you. That will contaminate you. And learn to be balanced. Balance is very important. Balance. I said, early up, early rise, early to bed. And of course, that means we don't have a big meal in the evening. You are not going to get up early. That's not going. Therefore, as a devotee, we need to be trained. We have to be trained how to live, how to cook, and so on. These are all important parts about training, because the control of the mind and the satisfaction in your devotional service depends on living in goodness, sattva. And sattva means balance. Therefore, brahmacharya life, even in family life, is required for a devotee. Because we have to develop the qualities of a Brahman and go beyond. A Vaishnava is beyond a Brahman, because he has the qualities of a Brahman. That's goodness. We have to develop them. It's always very clean. And see what you eat. That Ayurveda says you can eat what your stomach can digest. What can my stomach digest? Ayurveda says take your 2 pounds, what you can carry in your 2 hands. And from that you can eat in the morning 50 to 60%, at noon 90%, in the evening 20% very late. Otherwise, you get problems in the night and you can't get up and so on. So it's a lifestyle that we have to follow. And if we follow that balance, also we have to see with the mind that we don't overstress the mind. Krishna says, working and recreation. Recreation we do in Krishna consciousness. We read, we chant, we do all these things. But not, you need that balance. If during the day we are so absorbed in problem solving and the mind is so absorbed in it, then you feel very tired in the evening because the mind is out of balance. It's out of balance. So we have to be careful to plan our day. Therefore, the Rupa Goswami said, don't over endeavor. Do what you can. We don't live to work, but we work to live. So because we may be a businessman and make big plans, but forget about these big plans. Do what's needed to get a good income, but not more. That's not our business in this moment. That balance should be there. And then what's most important is you need regular association with those who are advanced. But these days you can have association with Prabhupada and make sure that you invite regularly senior devotees here. And you try to get them here and make that also a priority. That will help to keep, because we need inspiration. I need also inspiration. I'm traveling 3 weeks and then I'm resting. I'm here and I'm during my rest, I'm very absorbed in reading, studying, and so on. And then I travel again, and I travel many times to holy places. And I give lectures there, but I visit also things and relax a bit and take a health cure for my balance, because this jet lag every time the body gets older. Without balance, I can't do anything. So that's, I would say that's, it's a whole package. It's not just one answer. And of course, stay in in association of devotees, but if the family members are cooperating and they are want also to be Krishna conscious, and you engage together in reading and hearing, that's very good. You can help each other. And sometimes there will be difficulties, because devotional service, even in the best way, we are in material nature, and it's going up and down. It's like a boat we soaked, up and down. But it should go on the long term, up and down, but up. And it will go up. So we have to tolerate a lot of things. Tolerance is important. Is that all? What?
How do we get this carried?
What?
Is it like recorded or?
But tell you later. Okay?
Maharaj, I have a question on my own personal life. Like, I'm a new devotee of more than a year now, but I feel like it has been a more than a year, but I feel that the spiritual progress or the growth is not there that much, compared to the time. So I feel like, so we are regular like to the Sunday programs or doing kirtans and other things, but I still feel that I'm not progressing. So I feel that I'm doing things artificially, or probably I'm disconnecting myself. So do you have any advice for new devotee like me, or who are going through the same situation? What is wrong? Like, I know that you give a great class, right, which was basically answering a lot of points. I was just trying to identify myself with that. But do you have any other suggestion, like how me, like a new devotee, can progress from here and, for the disconnection or other stuff which I'm feeling, in heart, like how I can overcome from that.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the process of devotional service from Shraddha to Prema. And that is a process with stages. The first is Shraddha. You hear from a Swami or devotees, or you read Prabhupada's books, you get some faith. And then Sadhu Sangha, you associate with devotees and accept the spiritual mass. You learn from them how to practice devotional service. This practice of devotions is called Bhajana Kriya Bhajan, Bhajana Kriya Sadhana, and how to practice. That includes everything, how to cook, how to live, everything. It's whole education. And then you start to practice devotional service. You follow the regulated principles. You come up to the 16 rounds, but still this Vajna Kriya, this practice, has two sub-stages, Anishtita and Nishtita. Anishtita is unsteady. That sometimes you follow strictly, sometimes not. You try to control the senses. Sometimes okay, sometimes you fail. So you are struggling with the mind. The mind makes proposals and you're absorbing in the mind and you think, yeah, maybe I should do this or that. It's going from one thing to another. That is an unsteady mind. So that's the unsteady practice of devotional service. There are 6 stages. But the first one is to come through that. And then one comes to the stage of being steady, nishtita. Then you start to feel better and you are studying your devotional service. But that does not mean because you are studied that the heart is becoming purified, that you are making progress. That's not sufficient. But why are we not making progress? Because we are making offenses. Offenses against the holy name is forms of disrespect in the heart. First offense is to blaspheme devotees or disrespect devotees who dedicate their lives for the preaching of the holy name. The second offense is thinking names of demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahman are equal or independent of name of Lord Vishnu. The third offense is Guru Avakya, the not following the instructions of the spiritual master. So you must know the instructions of Prabhupada and read his books. And 4 is to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literacy and pursuance of the Vedic version. That means that we cannot reject one scripture and another. No, we have to accept the essence of the devotional service from all the scriptures. And then 5, the thinking that the chant of the holy name, that's imagination or an exaggeration, or give some interpretation of the holy name. Or I do secretly some simple activities, by chanting it will be okay. That's the 7th offense. Or the 8th offense, yeah, I'm chanting Hare Krishna and I think I will feel good and become happy in this world. That's karma kanda. That's not the purpose of the chanting. The purpose of the chanting is not going to make you happy in this world. It's going to bring you to the spiritual platform so that you can tolerate all these things and above it and not identify with the mind thing. You are out of the thing. But it's not meant to make you happy in this world. And the 9th is to instruct a faithless person about the chanting of the holy name. And the 10th offense is remaining materially attached even after so many instructions on that matter. So that is, if we make these offenses, and we make all these offenses, all of us make that. That's nama parant. But that means our our inner attitude is not correct, and therefore Krishna does not reveal himself and does not really purify your heart. Therefore, to get that right, we must hear the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita every day, because that will bring us in the right mood. So you have to combine these things. And that takes a while. That's Rupa Goswami said, Utsaha, Nisaya, Daryat. 3 things necessary for make spiritual advance. Enthusiastic, that and be determined, convinced this is my only way to get. And the 3rd thing is Nisaya Daryat, be patient. The purification of the heart takes normally 30, 40 years. And the first 5 years, mostly, we are not coming to Anartha Nivritti yet. Why? Because we make these offenses. But even, therefore it goes very slow, very slow. But once you come to the point, when the change of heart started to take place, then it comes through. So I was 5 years in the movement before I understood what I really was into. 5 years, 5 years of study. I read the whole Bhagavatam before I got the point what pure devotion services. It's not so easy, but it's very powerful, this chanting. Just have patience and continue. That a year, that's nothing. A year, usually we don't. If our heart is too contaminated, it takes a while. But it gives you already steadiness, this chanting. And you will be able to begin control your mind. And your life becomes more, your life becomes qualitatively much higher. Just in the beginning. In the beginning, we feel already I'm not this body, but there's no realization. That comes later. That's my experience. I'm there chanting 35 years. But my heart may be pure from gross material things, but certainly a lot of things to do with. Because why I'm saying that? Because it's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Unless the heart is pure, you cannot take sannyas. Took sannyas. Because otherwise you cannot maintain it. Not possible. But we have all to continue. And we need the guidance of the spiritual master, and especially the mercy of the devotees. If you want the quick method, the trouble with pure devotees, don't let them go. I did it for 15 years with Palan Maharaj, 3-4 months every year. I was his secretary. I traveled with him. And I saw how he was living, how he was behaving, and I learned so much. So that's the Sadhu Sangram. That's what Lord Kapila saying. Vasangam Champa Vasam Atman Kabayovidu. Saiva Sadhusukritur Mokshat Pharma Pavitam. Attachment to material things is the cause of entanglement. But that same attachment, if transferred to the sadhu, to the pure devotee, is the cause of liberation. And also, Lord, it said to Narada Muni says that the king, Vachina Bharatan, unless one smears the dust that has touched the lotus feet of the pure devotee in its head, I cannot make spiritual advance. But how do you do that? Yet a Mansya Prabhupada, there it begins. Mansya Prabhupada. And get his Mansya. Does that help? Yes, thank you. Good, thank you very much. Yanta Srimad Bhagavatam ki Srila Prabhupada ki Gaura Prema. Thank you.
ये तो विनय पति को मारा है